So most of us have had moments in a relationship when we wonder, is this the right person? Do I love them enough? Are we really compatible? Been there. But what happens when those questions become intrusive, repetitive, and nearly impossible to let go of?
That's right. It's a term getting more attention called relationship OCD or ROCD. So here to go more in depth about this with us is 9 News mental health expert, Dr. Sheryl Ziegler. Okay. I understood all those questions, and I too have been there. I have never heard of this term relationship OCD. So what exactly is it?
So it is a subtype of OCD. So OCD meaning obsessive compulsive disorder, which is also under the umbrella of an anxiety disorder. So there are multiple anxiety disorders. This is one of them. So the ROCD is not in the DSM-5. This is not a clinical diagnosis, but you would say OCD relational type kind of thing. So what that really means is that your obsessions, which are your thoughts, they're intrusive thoughts like, am I good enough? Is he good enough? Is he attractive enough? Does he make enough money? Is she, charming enough? Whatever it is intrusive. It's repetitive in your head. You don't feel like you're fully in control of it. It's unwanted. And you just really have this sense of like, this is actually driving me crazy. Like, and then the compulsion part is you're now checking. So you're checking, like you're asking your friends, you're asking them, do you love me? Do you still love me? Or do you think he's good enough for me? Do you think I should be with them? So you're doing those kinds of things. And so that compulsive piece, that's exhausting. And people around you will start to be like, are you okay? What's happening here? So you put those two together, you have intrusive thoughts, you have these behaviors that are too much, they're too repetitive. And so people get really concerned and they're going to doctors and psychologists and saying, is this normal?
I think of the compulsion part because how much is compulsive? Because I will admit, my wife and I, every now and then, like I will think like, is everything okay? So I check in. Like checking in feels like a normal thing.
Yes, that's a really good question because just like you said, we've all been there before. In a relationship, even in a marriage where we're just like, are we okay? Are they okay? Am I good? Are they good? However, what the difference is like, it's like the difference between anxiety and OCD, right? That's maybe something we can relate to. Worries, right? That's anxiety. Okay, I'm worried. Oh man, last night wasn't so fun. Our anniversary dinner wasn't that great. You're thinking about it. You're in control of those thoughts. They're not overly consuming. So even today at work, right? Maybe a couple of times on a break, you thought about it, but then the rest of the day, you're still going about your day. In an ROCD situation, it feels consuming, overwhelming, like there's no stop and end. It's just ongoing. That would be a really good telltale of the difference between I'm a little anxious and worried about this versus this is now maybe OCD. And plus there's the behavioral piece.
So how common is this? And if you know someone or if somebody's watching and they're like, oh gosh, I do this or I'm going through this, how do they get treatment? Is it treatable?
Yes. So only about 1 to 2% of the population truly has OCD, right? We don't have a lot of figures about ROCD because it's not really a technical diagnosis. However, let's just say 1 to 2%. So again, this is very narrow, but I know this is kind of gets like social media. You start using terms a lot bigger, like I could see this being a whole thing like, oh, that's me. I have ROCD too.
Just like gaslighting. I hear
Because I think about it once a day.
Exactly. Like I'm a little worried about, So I get that happens. But there's real treatment for this. So that would be two things. It would be cognitive behavioral treatment, right? So cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and then plus the anxiety part really, which is exposures. So you have this piece of what are your cognitive behavioral therapy is your thoughts and your behaviors. That's the real focus on the pattern, what triggers it. And then the exposure piece is exposing somebody to the situation that is causing them anxiety. It's usually gradual. So that way they can tolerate it, right? The exposure might be go home and have a hard conversation with your partner, right? And then see what happens. Like, well, why would I want to do that? Why would I bring up a hard conversation? We're going to expose you to tension in a relationship and then see how we do after. So that's just an example. It probably starts a lot smaller. So there is real treatment. This is a real thing in terms of a type of OCD. It's pretty rare, but like many things on social media, it could be this big, but it gets a huge spotlight on it.
Now the whole world wants to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for the help. We appreciate it.
Of course.